Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Felix here with your Word on the Street. And today we're continuing our study in the book of the Revelation of Jesus Christ, specifically through the seven bowl judgments. And if you recall from our previous three teachings on this subject, we have gone through the first bowl of sores, the second bowl of the sea turning to blood, killing all the sea life, and then the third bowl where all of the fresh water turned to blood, making it impossible to drink water on earth. Methodically and precisely, God is issuing his final wrath upon the Antichrist and his government and all the ungodly and evil followers. So for today's teaching, I had to dig into a little bit of astronomy and physics in order to get some information regarding this fourth bowl judgment. And this should be pretty interesting, all right? So give me some grace here. So let's open up our Bibles to Revelation chapter 16, verses 8 and 9 in a teaching entitled, The Fourth Bowl Judgment, Men are Scorched. And John writes in verse 8, he says, "And then the fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and power was given to him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and they blasphemed the name of God, who has power over these plagues, and they did not repent and give him glory." So now we went from plagues striking men, striking the water resources of the oceans and of the streams and rivers, and now we are seeing the plagues striking the skies. You know, it's a bit interesting that just recently in Revelation chapter 13, verse 13, when the beast of the earth is introduced, John wrote, he says, "He performs great signs so that even makes fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men." But now God here is destroying that false miracle with his wrath. You know, I love how Jesus boldly tells the world of the coming of the Son of Man in Luke chapter 22. He begins in verse 25 by saying, "And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, in the stars, and on the earth, distresses of nations with perplexity. The sea and the waves are roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens are going to be shaken." And then Jesus continues on in verse 27. He said that then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now, he says, when these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. That's Jesus talking. That's in red. You know, while men or people who come to Christ during the Great Tribulation, they're not going to face these bowl judgments. Those who follow the Antichrist will. So let's dig into this astronomy and the physics that I was talking to you about. So imagine, if you will, that the sun is like a creator of like high energy particles that shoot off the sun towards Earth, and they're going at speeds of 3 million miles an hour. And we know that the Earth is surrounded by a field of radiation that's known as the magnetosphere that actually protects us from these particles. And there is a volume of like solar radiation that does enter into the magnetosphere, and it's trapped by the Van Allen belts. So look that up, because it's too much to talk about here and I don't know enough. But I know this: if the Van Allen belts were to dissolve or be destroyed, we are toast, literally, okay? So just like on Earth, we have storms, like natural occurrences like hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes. The sun is prone to its own phenomena with weather patterns as well. Solar flares actually roll off the sun, sometimes millions of miles, shooting off X-rays, radio waves, light waves, and other deadly high-energy proton to Earth, okay? And they cause major damage to communications all the time. I discovered that these giant flares follow in 3 cycles, one at 11-year intervals, 80-year intervals, and 400-year intervals, and they cause sunspots, okay? And we could see those with telescopes and certain things that we can see that with. But for some of you more mature listeners who were around in November of 1960, you may recall when there was a huge cloud of solar hydrogen gas that ran across 10 million miles in the sky, and then it arched back to the sun 93 million miles away. The gases hit the Earth at an estimated 4,000 miles per second, caused major damage, and even ignited the northern lights like they've never been seen before. All this to say that, you know, incidents like this are amazing and absolutely remarkable. We have been very blessed that the creator of the earth and sky, gave us protection that we have. But that protection is over in this judgment. The hydrogen and the composition and the helium that's in the sun, it's going to eventually get to a point of overwhelming heat. And it may be possible that the sun begins to heat up so bad, like an atomic fusion of two gases, that the heat on earth will become a point of death. Oceans will boil, life on earth will be nothing short of biblical torment. And throughout all of this, John tells us that the men will still blaspheme God. By their very words of blaspheming God, they are acknowledging the existence of God. And it's going to be too late for them to change their hearts and minds. God has the power to overtake the earth back to himself. These first four judgments will be nothing in comparison to God's remaining wrath upon Satan and his beast. Babylon will fall, and the end is near. Revelation chapter 16, verses 8 and 9, the fourth bowl judgment, men are scorched, and that's your word on the street.